Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. That was a very interesting contribution by the former Speaker, because what he has failed to acknowledge in that contribution, after 8 long years of the Liberals being in government, is that housing affordability right across the country has gotten worse and worse. There are more homeless Australians than ever before. It's harder to rent than ever before, and it's harder to buy a home than ever before. This crisis is hitting Australians from so many different walks of life. In the last year, Tasmanian property prices outside Hobart have risen by a staggering 18%. At the same time, across Australia, 10,000 mums and kids trying to escape domestic violence were turned away from refuge because there wasn't a bed. Well, there is a pathway forward to begin tackling Australia's housing crisis, despite the Morrison government steadfastly refusing to do anything of substance to fix this increasingly dire and desperate situation. And that's through an Albanese Labor government, because the Labor government would make real strides towards tackling our nation's housing crisis. An Albanese Labor government will create jobs, build homes and change lives through initiatives including our proposed $10 billion Housing Australia Future Fund. Over the first 5 years, Labor's fund will build 20,000 new social housing properties, including 4,000 homes for women and children fleeing domestic violence and older women on low incomes who are at risk of homelessness, and build 10,000 affordable homes for frontline workers like police, nurses and cleaners. Directly support 21,500 full-time jobs across the construction industry and the broader economy per year over 5 years nationwide. Importantly, 1 in 10 direct workers on site will be apprentices. Provide $200 million for the repair, maintenance and improvements of housing in remote Indigenous communities, where some of the worst housing standards in the world are endured by our First Nations people. Invest $100 million in crisis and transitional housing for women and children fleeing domestic and family violence. Invest $30 million to build housing and fund specialist services for veterans who experience homelessness or at risk of homelessness. And this commitment from Labor has been very well received. In fact, Labor's policy has received a seemingly endless series of accolades from right across the housing sector. This includes ACOS, the Community Housing Industry Association, the Urban Development Institute of Australia, Homelessness Australia, Everybody's Home, the Property Council, National Shelter, St Vincent de Paul, the Master Builders, Power Housing Australia, Mission Australia and the Real Estate Institute. Let me quote you just a couple of the responses and reactions to Labor's Housing Australia Future Fund commitment. Mr Jack de Groot, the CEO of St Vincent de Paul in New South Wales, said, and I quote, "It will work. We really welcome this announcement of Housing Australia Future Fund. We have a crisis and we need investment. I think this Future Fund is about a partnership between federal and state governments as well as a community sector organisation to actually build and then make sure this housing is available for those on low incomes." Michelle Adair, CEO of Housing Trust and Chair of the Community Housing Industry Association, said, "The Housing Trust and the community housing sector, along with all our homelessness peak bodies, is applauding this announcement by Labor federally." So that is just one of the things that Labor has put forward. But sadly, with this government, they only work in the margins. We've seen that under their family home guarantee announcement, that has been a complete flop until, pressured by the community and Labor, they sought to change the level of the price cap on the family home guarantee. Now, that was exposed really from the Launceston Examiner and a reporter there who had the gumption to actually expose the fact that there was only 2 houses in Launceston that would be able to come under the Liberals' family home guarantee. It's not good enough.
Your time has expired.